Most people think the Minneapolis real estate market is slow right now. And honestly, for a lot of homes, they're right. But the best prepared homes are still going $50,000 to $75,000 over asking, with buyers waiving inspections and bringing extra cash to cover appraisal gaps. And that's happening in the same city. So if you're buying or selling in the Minneapolis metro, this split market changes everything about your strategy. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do on both sides. All right, so here's what makes this market really confusing right now. You can look at two homes in the same zip code listed the same week at similar prices, and one goes under contract in 4 days with multiple offers. While that happens, the other one sits for 6 weeks, comes back after a canceled contract, and takes a price cut just to get a single showing. And both of those outcomes are totally predictable once you know what's driving them. So this isn't random, and it's not just about location. It actually comes down to condition, preparation, and a few specific things that buyers in the Minneapolis metro are really zeroing in on right now. So let's get into both sides of this market, starting with the listings that are struggling. The homes that are sitting tend to share a few things in common. They need repairs or updates. They haven't been properly prepped for sale, and they're priced high relative to price per square foot compared to similar homes nearby. The other option is they've got an issue that's become a really big deal here in Minnesota specifically, and that's the roof age and what it does to a buyer's insurance options. So Minnesota gets hailstorms. We all know that. And insurance companies have gotten a lot more particular about how they handle older roofs. And basically any roof past that 10 to 12 year mark is getting harder and harder to fully insure. What that means is a buyer who takes on a home with an older roof might not be able to get a full replacement coverage. So if a hailstorm comes through after they move in, they could be looking at a massive out-of-pocket expense, even if the roof isn't currently leaking. And again, I'm not an insurance agent, so please talk to a professional about your situation, but I'm seeing this come up more and more in actual deals. So this creates a standoff where the seller doesn't want to replace a roof that isn't leaking right before they move out, and the buyer doesn't want to take on an older roof that could turn into a serious money pit. So a lot of the time, the deal just falls apart, or the home sits way longer than it should. And later, I'm going to walk you through a specific inspection strategy that helps you compete on the strongest homes without taking on unnecessary risk. Now, on the other side of this market, the homes that are selling super fast are well prepped, updated, priced correctly relative to price per square foot, and in desirable locations. And when all those boxes are checked, buyers show up ready to compete. Just this past weekend, my team and I had two situations that show exactly what this looks like. One home went $75,000 over asking, another went $50,000 over asking. Both had buyers waiving inspection, and both included appraisal gap language where the buyers committed to bringing extra cash to the table if the home appraised below the contract price. That's not happening with every home in Minneapolis right now. It's not the norm for the whole market, but it is happening with the best homes in the most desirable areas. And if you're a buyer or seller, you need to know this part of the market still exists, because it will absolutely affect your strategy. And that's exactly what we're getting into right now. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking about buying or selling in the Minneapolis metro, and you're not sure which side of this market your situation falls on, that's exactly the kind of conversation I have with buyers and sellers in the Twin Cities every single day. And I'd love to help you figure out your specific position before you make any moves. My contact information is linked below. Let's talk through it all. All right, let's jump back in. So if you're planning to sell in Minneapolis right now, this split market means preparation matters more than ever. And the first thing I tell any seller is to really take the time to prep your home and do the small repairs, especially on the interior. Things like painting, carpet cleaning or replacement, light fixture updates, and deep cleaning, because buyers in this market are comparing listings side by side on their phones before they ever schedule a tour. And a home that shows well in photos and feels polished at showings attracts a completely different level of interest than one that looks like it needs work. The second thing I'd tell sellers is to really pay attention to price per square foot, not just neighborhood comps and what the general range looks like, because buyers today are running the numbers carefully. And if your home is priced higher on that metric than similar homes nearby without a clear reason for it, like a larger lot, a big renovation, or lake proximity, they're going to question it, and they might just move on. The strategy that works really well right now is listing at the lower end of your realistic range and letting the market take it up rather than staring at the top of the range, getting no offers and having to backtrack because a price reduction is a signal that buyers pick up on fast. And the third thing I'd say is to stage your home. And if it's vacant, spend the money to get it professionally staged because empty rooms photograph smaller and feel colder during showings. And staged homes consistently sell faster and closer to or above list price. If you already have furniture in the home, what I recommend is a staging consultation where a professional works with what you already have to open up the space, improve the flow, and maximize how the home feels both in person and online. You want to maximize the way your home looks in photos and videos. And a home that hasn't figured out how to best use the space and furniture it has will hurt you in the end. If you want to know where your home stands right now, I've got a home valuation tool linked below. It takes about 2 minutes and gives you a really solid starting point before you make any decisions. And with that, let's talk about buyers because competing in this market takes just as much strategy as selling it. So if you're buying in the Minneapolis metro right now, you also need a clear strategy. And the first thing I'd tell any buyer is to make sure you're working with a local Minnesota-based lender, not a national one, because local lenders have relationships and reputations with listing agents and sellers, and those relationships can actually win deals. I've been in situations where a buyer's offer wasn't the highest on the table, but the listing agent and seller chose to go with them anyway because they trusted the lender and knew the deal would get done. And that kind of credibility is something a national call center lender just can't provide. The second thing I'd say is to start early. There's really no downsides to meeting with an experienced agent sooner rather than later, because the more time you spend learning the market before you're under pressure to write an offer, the better your decisions are going to be. For the next piece of advice, I recommend that you work on understanding pricing trends by neighborhood, knowing what homes are actually selling for versus what they're listed at, and getting clear on your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves before you're in the middle of a competitive situation. To be real, almost no home is going to check every single box, and being clear on what you're willing to be flexible on makes it a lot easier to move confidently when the right home comes along. And lastly, for the most desirable properties in the best areas, you need to be prepared to potentially compete hard. And the way we handle inspections for our clients in those situations is by having the property inspected before the offer goes in. That gives you roughly 90% of what a full post-acceptance inspection would cover and lets you submit a cleaner offer without fully giving up your due diligence. So you jump to the top of the list without taking on unnecessary risk. And again, be prepared to potentially go significantly over asking and have appraisal gap language ready if you're targeting the strongest listings in the most competitive areas. But let's bring this all together now, because the Minneapolis metro market right now really does come down to two completely different experiences depending on which side of this split you're on. Homes that need work, haven't been prepped, are priced high on a per square foot basis without a clear reason, or have roof age issues that create insurance friction, are sitting longer, falling out of contract more, and seeing price reductions just to generate interest. And that's a meaningful chunk of what's on the market right now. But well-prepared, well-priced, well-located homes are still creating super competitive situations where sellers walk away with a lot more than their asking price, and the gap between those two outcomes comes down almost entirely to decisions made before the listing ever goes live. And for buyers, the same split applies, because there are homes in this market where you've got real negotiating room, and there are homes where you need to come in strong, move fast, and have a clear strategy ready to go, and knowing which situation you're walking into before you get there is what separates the buyers who win from the ones who keep losing out. Look, which side of this market you land on is about preparation, strategy, and having the right people in your corner before you make a move. If you're ready to figure out exactly where your home stands or what it's going to take to win your next offer, shoot me an email today and let's map out your game plan before the next wave of listings hit. And if you want to make sure you're not walking into the wrong property, check out the video I've linked here where I break down 7 types of homes in Minnesota that will seriously drain your wallet. Trust me, you'll want to watch that one before you start touring homes. This is all I have for you for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.